Hi everyone, my name's Alex, and I never thought I'd be the guy spilling his guts to a bunch of strangers online. But here I am, staring at this screen in the dim glow of my desk lamp, trying to make sense of the wreckage that was my marriage. I'm 38, a software engineer at a mid-sized tech firm in Seattle, where the rain never seems to stop tapping against the windows like some persistent reminder of things left unsaid. We've been married for 8 years, no kids yet, though we talked about it endlessly over late-night glasses of wine. And up until a few months ago, I thought we had that solid, comfortable life you see in those feel-good movies, the kind where the couple finishes each other's sentences and laughs at inside jokes from their dating days. Her name is Sarah, and she's always been the vibrant one in our duo, outgoing, with that effortless smile that lights up a room, a marketing coordinator who thrives on networking events and creative brainstorming sessions. Our days blended into a rhythm I cherished. Mornings with the scent of fresh coffee brewing in our cozy kitchen, her hair still tousled from sleep as she pecked my cheek before heading out. Evenings unwinding on the couch with takeout and whatever show we were binging. But looking back, maybe I was too comfortable, too trusting, ignoring the way the air sometimes felt heavier when she came home late, her eyes darting just a fraction too quickly to her phone. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first crack appeared, the kind of night where the leaves crunched underfoot and the chill seeped through your jacket no matter how tightly you zipped it. I was in the living room, the soft hum of the heater battling the draft from the old windows, flipping through channels while waiting for her to get back from what she called a quick work meeting. The clock ticked past 9 p.m., then 10, and my thumb hovered over her contact in my phone, a knot forming in my stomach that I tried to dismiss as paranoia. She finally slipped through the door around 11, her cheeks flushed from the cold, or so I thought, carrying the faint, unfamiliar scent of cologne mixed with something sweeter, like vanilla from a bar's cocktail menu. "Sorry, Han. The team got carried away brainstorming," she said with a quick hug, her arms wrapping around me a beat too loosely, her gaze sliding past mine to the stairs. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, a whisper of doubt echoed. Why did her laugh sound forced, like an echo of someone else's joy? As I lay in bed that night, the sheets cool against my skin despite the warmth of her body next to mine, I stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazily overhead, its blades casting shadows that danced like unspoken secrets. Her breathing evened out quickly, but mine stayed shallow, my mind replaying the way her fingers had twitched toward her pocket when her phone buzzed earlier, silencing it without a glance. Was I overthinking it? Probably, I told myself, rolling over to face the wall, the faint glow of streetlights filtering through the blinds like accusatory fingers. But deep down, that knot tightened. What if this was just the beginning of something unraveling? In this introductory phase, Alex's psyche is rooted in a state of comfortable denial, where his attachment to the marriage manifests as selective blindness to subtle cues like Sarah's delayed returns and evasive body language, flushed cheeks, loose hugs, and averted gazes that signal emotional detachment. This sets up a classic cognitive dissonance. His deep-seated trust clashes with emerging intuition, fostering anxiety masked as rationalization. The sensory details, from the chill air to the ticking clock, amplify his internal unease, mirroring how betrayal often starts not with grand revelations, but with micro-moments that erode security. Emotionally, Alex's vulnerability highlights a common trait in long-term relationships, over-reliance on routine for stability, while foreshadowing the growth from passive observer to empowered individual. This block underscores how ignoring these early whispers can lead to profound heartbreak, emphasizing the importance of addressing doubts before they fester into irreversible fractures. The next few weeks blurred into our usual routine, or at least that's what I kept telling myself as I sipped my morning coffee, the bitter steam rising in curls that matched the fog outside our kitchen window. Sarah and I had met in college, back when life felt like an open road. Me, the quiet coder buried in algorithms, her the social butterfly flitting through parties and study groups. 8 years in, our home in the suburbs felt like a sanctuary, wooden floors that creaked underfoot, bookshelves crammed with novels we'd promised to read together, and the faint aroma of her lavender shampoo lingering in the bathroom long after she'd left for work. I'd get up at 7, brew a pot, and we'd share a quick breakfast, her scrolling through emails, me glancing at news headlines, before she dashed out with a wave, her heels clicking sharply on the tile, like punctuation marks ending our brief connection. But lately, those mornings carried an undercurrent I couldn't quite shake, like the way the fridge hummed a little louder in the silence after she left. She'd started lingering in the bathroom longer, the door locked, the sound of water running masking whatever she was doing on her phone. One morning, as I passed by, I heard the soft tap-tap of her fingers on the screen, followed by a muffled giggle that stopped abruptly when I knocked. "Just checking social media," she said through the door, her voice light but edged with something sharper, like glass underfoot. When she emerged, her makeup was flawless, eyes lined with a new smoky shadow she'd never worn before, and she brushed past me with a kiss that felt perfunctory, lips cool and quick. Evenings weren't much better. We'd sit on the couch, the TV flickering blue light across the room, casting long shadows on the walls adorned with photos from our honeymoon in Hawaii, smiling faces frozen in time. But Sarah's attention drifted. Her phone would light up, and she'd angle it away, her thumb swiping swiftly to dismiss notifications. "Work stuff," she'd murmur, her eyes not meeting mine, her posture shifting slightly, shoulders hunching as if guarding a secret. I'd nod, the remote heavy in my hand. But inside, questions bubbled. Why the sudden password change on her phone last week? Why did she flinch when I reached for it to check the weather? I rationalized it. Stress from her job's recent promotion. Maybe. But the air felt thicker, charged with unspoken words, the scent of her new perfume cloying and unfamiliar, like it belonged to someone else's life. One Friday, she mentioned a girls' night, out of the blue, her fingers twisting the edge of her napkin at dinner, the candle flame dancing in her eyes. "It's been ages since I let loose," she said, her smile bright, but not reaching her crinkled brows, a micro twitch at the corner of her mouth betraying nervousness. I agreed, of course, what kind of husband wouldn't? But as she got ready, humming off key in the bedroom, I noticed the extra care, a new dress hugging her figure, heels higher than usual, and a spritz of that perfume again, its sweetness hanging in the air like a veil. She left with a hug, her body tense under my arms, and the door clicked shut behind her, leaving me in the quiet house, the clock's tick echoing my heartbeat. I poured a glass of whiskey, the amber liquid burning my throat, and sat in the dark living room, staring at the empty space beside me on the couch. Was this normal? Or was I sensing the first threads pulling loose in the fabric of our marriage? That night, she came home past midnight, her steps unsteady on the porch, the key scraping in the lock like a confession. The house was cool, the thermostat humming softly, and I pretended to be asleep as she slipped into bed, her skin carrying the faint tang of smoke and alcohol, her breathing irregular. In the darkness, my mind raced. Who was she with? Why the secrecy? But I stayed silent, my hand inches from hers under the sheets, the distance feeling vast. The early signs of trouble in Alex's marriage stem from his mistake of prioritizing harmony over confrontation, allowing Sarah's behavioral shifts, increased phone secrecy, new grooming habits, and evasive explanations to accumulate without challenge. This passive approach, born from fear of rocking the boat, teaches a harsh lesson in the dangers of denial. Small inconsistencies, like angled screens and forced smiles, often signal deeper issues. Psychologically, Alex's rationalizations highlight self-preservation, but they prolong emotional turmoil, eroding trust incrementally. The sensory immersion, the cloying perfume, unsteady steps, amplifies how betrayal invades everyday spaces, turning comfort into suspicion. Ultimately, this phase illustrates that addressing red flags early can prevent escalation, fostering growth through proactive communication rather than retrospective regret, and empowering individuals to reclaim agency before devastation sets in. As the days stretched into weeks, the unease settled in like the persistent Seattle drizzle, soaking through my clothes and chilling me to the bone no matter how I tried to shake it off. Our routines continued on the surface. Mornings with the coffee maker gurgling, the aroma of grounds mixing with the faint metallic tang of rain on the windowsill. But underneath, cracks widened. Sarah's phone had become an extension of her hand, always face down on the table during meals, its screen lighting up at odd hours with vibrations that she'd silence with a casual flick. Her nails, newly manicured in a bold red, tapping impatiently. I'd catch her smiling at it in the kitchen, a soft curve to her lips that used to be reserved for me. But now it vanished when I entered the room, replaced by a neutral expression, her eyes flicking up too quickly, brows furrowing just a touch. One afternoon, working from home in my study, the light filtering gray through the blinds, I heard her in the hallway, her voice low and hurried on a call. "No, not now." "Yeah, soon," she whispered, the words muffled but the tone intimate, laced with a giggle that sent a spike of ice through my chest. When she hung up, she poked her head in, her cheeks slightly pink, hair tucked behind her ear in a gesture I knew meant she was flustered. "Just a client," she said, her smile tight, avoiding my gaze as she busied herself with the laundry basket. I nodded, but my mind spun. Clients didn't make her laugh like that, didn't make her voice drop to that husky whisper. That evening, over dinner, pasta cooling on plates, the fork scraping ceramic in the heavy silence, she mentioned another late meeting, her fingers twisting her wedding ring absent-mindedly, a habit she'd had since our engagement, but now it felt like she was testing its weight. The suspicion gnawed at me during sleepless nights, the bed sheets tangled around my legs, the distant hum of traffic outside, like white noise failing to drown my thoughts. Was I paranoid? Overworked? I tried to dismiss it, focusing on work, lines of code blurring on my screen, but images flashed, her deleting texts when she thought I wasn't looking, the way she'd started wearing more makeup even for grocery runs, her skin glowing under the bathroom light as she applied it with precise strokes. One weekend, she claimed a spa day with friends, leaving early with a gym bag that seemed bulkier than usual, the zipper straining. I waved from the porch, the cool air nipping at my face, but as her car pulled away, tires crunching gravel, a voice in my head whispered to check her location app. We'd shipped for safety years ago. I resisted, pacing the living room, the rug soft under my bare feet, but the doubt built like pressure in a storm. By mid-month, the emotional highs and lows hit harder. A good day, she'd surprise me with my favorite takeout, her hand lingering on mine, eyes warm, and I'd think, see, it's nothing. But then, lo, finding a receipt in her coat pocket for a bar downtown, dated a night she'd said she was at yoga, the paper crinkled as if hastily stuffed away. Must be from lunch with the team, she explained later, her voice even but her hands clasping together in her lap, knuckles whitening. I wanted to believe her, the love we shared pulling me back, but the fear of overreacting warred with intuition. Insomnia set in, the clock's red digits mocking me at 3 a.m., my breath shallow as I lay there, hyper-aware of her even breathing beside me, wondering if her dreams were of someone else. Finally, one rainy evening, as thunder rumbled distant like a warning, I couldn't ignore it anymore. She was in the shower, steam billowing from under the door, and her phone buzzed on the nightstand, lighting up with a message preview. "Can't wait for tomorrow night." From a contact labeled work colleague. My heart pounded, the room spinning slightly, the carpet grounding me as I stared, frozen. It wasn't proof, but it was the crack that threatened to split everything wide open. This phase marks the progression from vague unease to active suspicion, with stages building like layers. Initial observations of phone secrecy and routine shifts give way to emotional swings, culminating in the point of no return, the receipt and message preview that shatter denial. Psychologically, Alex navigates denial, bargaining with rationalizations, and emerging anger, his hyper-awareness manifesting in sensory details like widening knuckles and distant thunder, symbolizing internal storm. Sarah's motivations appear rooted in thrill-seeking or dissatisfaction, her defensiveness a classic avoidance tactic. The lesson here is that ignoring intuitive stages prolongs pain, but reaching this threshold empowers action, highlighting how betrayal's consequences ripple from emotional fragmentation to the brink of relational collapse, urging early intervention for self-preservation. With that message burning in my mind, the suspicion hardened into resolve, like the fog outside condensing into rain that pelted the roof relentlessly. I wasn't proud of it, but the moral dilemma twisted in my gut. Was invading her privacy a betrayal, or was staying blind a real cowardice? I started small, observing patterns in the quiet hours after she left for work. The way her laptop stayed logged out now, passwords changed without mention, the browser history wiped clean. One morning, as the coffee dripped slowly into the pot, its aroma sharp and grounding, I checked our shared bank app on my phone. The screen's glow harsh in the pre-dawn light. There were charges: a boutique downtown for lingerie I hadn't seen, a hotel bar on a work trip night, small but telling, like breadcrumbs leading into the woods. Red herrings threw me off at first. A late night, she explained as traffic, corroborated by a quick web search showing jams on her route. Relief washed over me, warm like the steam from my mug, making me question my sanity. But then doubt returned, colder, when I noticed her deleting emails in the evenings, her back to me on the couch, shoulders tense under her sweater, the click of the mouse echoing in the room. I feigned interest in TV, but my eyes darted to her screen reflections in the window, catching glimpses of unfamiliar names. Insomnia worsened, the bed a battlefield where I'd lie awake, the sheets damp with sweat, obsessing over details. Her sudden interest in a new gym class, coming home with flushed skin and evasive answers, the faint scent of aftershave clinging to her clothes that wasn't mine. One weekend, she announced a conference out of town. 2 days, she said, her voice steady but her eyes avoiding mine as she packed, folding clothes with deliberate creases. The house felt emptier without her, the silence broken only by the fridge's hum and my pacing footsteps on the creaky floor. Moral qualms aside, I logged into our cloud photos from my computer, the cursor hovering like a judgment. There, deleted but recoverable, a selfie from weeks ago at a party, her arm around a man I didn't know, smiles too close, the background blurry with lights and laughter. My breath caught, the room's air thick, temperature dropping as if the heat had failed. It wasn't explicit, but combined with texts I'd glimpsed, "Miss you already" from the same colleague, it painted a picture. Setbacks came. She caught me glancing at her phone once, her face hardening, a flash of anger in her eyes before she softened. "What's wrong with you lately?" she asked, her tone defensive, hands on hips in the kitchen's fluorescent light. Guilt surged. I apologized, blaming stress, but inside, anger simmered, mixed with grief. Obsessive thinking took over. I drive by her office during lunch, the car's heater blasting warm air against the chill, spotting her car gone on days she claimed meetings. Finally, the breakthrough: installing a tracker app on our shared tablet, hidden in settings. That conference weekend, it pinged, not at the hotel she named, but a residential address downtown. My hands shook on the wheel as I drove there in the rain, wipers swishing rhythmically, heart thundering. Parked across the street, the building's lights warm behind curtains, I saw her silhouette through a window, laughing with him, their forms close. It wasn't foolproof yet, but it was enough to shatter the last illusions. If Alex had confronted Sarah earlier, based on initial suspicions rather than gathering evidence, the outcome might have veered toward reconciliation or earlier dissolution, avoiding the psychological toll of prolonged investigation. Insomnia, guilt, and obsessive patterns that mirror addiction-like behaviors in betrayal trauma. Instead, his path highlights the double-edged sword of proof-seeking. It provides certainty, but amplifies emotional swings from relief at red herrings to devastation at discoveries like the photo and tracker pings. Sarah's motivations seem driven by escapism, her defensiveness a shield against accountability. This block teaches that while evidence empowers decisions, it can deepen wounds. An alternative open dialogue might foster trust restoration, underscoring lessons in vulnerability over surveillance for healthier relational dynamics and personal growth. The drive home from that stakeout felt eternal, the rain smearing streetlights into blurs on the windshield, my knuckles white on the steering wheel as anger and sorrow churned like the storm outside. I waited until she returned Sunday evening, the house dim with only a lamp on, the air heavy with the scent of takeout I'd barely touched. When the door opened, her steps light and unsuspecting, she dropped her bag with a thud, smiling until she saw my face. Pale, eyes red-rimmed from hours of silent raging. "Alex, what's wrong?" she asked, her voice tentative, body freezing in the entryway, coat dripping water onto the mat. I didn't yell. The words came out measured, cold like the draft seeping under the door. "Who's the work colleague you've been seeing? The one at the party, the bar receipts, the apartment downtown?" Her face drained of color, micro expressions flashing, widened eyes in shock. then a swallow, lips pressing thin in denial. She sank onto the couch, hands trembling as she clasped them, the fabric's texture rough under her fingers. What are you talking about? You're being paranoid, she tried, voice cracking, but her gaze darted to her phone on the table, betraying her. Proof spilled out. I showed the recovered photo on my laptop, the screen's glow illuminating her guilt, then the tracker logs, timestamps damning. Pauses stretched, the clock ticking like a heartbeat in the silence, her breath shallow. It started months ago, she confessed finally, tears welling, her shoulders slumping as if deflated. At a company party. He listened, made me feel alive again. Our marriage, it's been routine, Alex. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Blame shifted subtly. You've been so focused on work, but her voice faltered, eyes pleading, hands reaching out then withdrawing. The twist hit like a gut punch. Not just physical, but emotional. She'd fallen for him, confiding dreams we'd once shared. How long? I pressed, my voice steady but fists clenched, nails digging into palms. 6 months, she whispered, broken sentences tumbling. I tried to end it, but silence again, the hum of the fridge underscoring the void between us. Anger restrained. I felt shock morph into detachment, the room's shadows lengthening as if swallowing our life. No screams, just her sobs echoing softly, my own tears hot but unshed. I need you to leave, I said finally, the words hanging heavy, her nod resigned, body language defeated, slumped posture, averted eyes. She gathered a bag in the quiet, the zippers wrapped final, and stepped into the night, the door closing with a soft click that echoed the break in my heart. The confrontation unleashes a cascade of emotions. Alex's restrained anger and shock propel decisive actions like presenting evidence, while Sarah's denial evolves into partial confession, her tears and blame shifting reflecting fear and regret. This interplay highlights betrayal's psychological realism. Victims often detach for self-protection, as Alex does, transforming grief into clarity. Sensory details like ticking clocks and dripping coats intensify the tension, mirroring internal chaos. Actions here, from showing proof to demanding departure, mark empowerment, teaching that emotional honesty in crises can accelerate healing, though consequences like immediate separation underscore how unchecked infidelity fractures bonds, fostering lessons in boundaries and resilience for both parties. In the weeks following that night, the house echoed with absence, the empty spaces where her things had been, like the hook missing her coat, the bathroom shelf bare of her creams, serving as stark reminders, but also canvases for my new beginning. I filed for divorce quietly, meeting with a lawyer in a sterile office downtown, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, papers crisp under my fingers as I signed, a weight lifting with each stroke. Friends rallied, their calls breaking the silence, one even helping me rearrange furniture, the scrape of wood on floor marking fresh starts. Family weighed in, my sister visiting with home-cooked meals, the aroma of lasagna filling the kitchen, her hugs warm against the lingering chill of solitude. Sarah's attempts at repair came sporadically, texts of remorse, a tearful voicemail pleading for therapy, her voice cracking over the line. But I'd set boundaries, no contact beyond logistics. The phone screen cold as I blocked her, empowerment surging like the first sunlight piercing Seattle's clouds. I threw myself into routines. Morning runs in the crisp air, leaves crunching under sneakers, sweat beading on my skin as endorphins chased away grief. Hobbies resurfaced, picking up guitar again, strings vibrating under calloused fingers in the evenings, the notes filling the living room with melody instead of echoes. Social life bloomed, dinners with colleagues, laughter over beers in dimly lit bars, the clink of glasses toasting my freedom. Therapy helped unpack it all, sessions in a cozy room with soft lighting. The therapist's nods encouraging as I voiced buried angers and fears, emerging lighter each time. No kids meant cleaner breaks, finances divided amicably through mediators, her remorse evident in concessions, but distant now, like a faded photo. I removed my ring one morning, the band leaving a pale indent on my finger, sunlight glinting off it as I placed it in a drawer, the wood smooth and final. For the first time in years, I felt truly mine. Waking to birdsong instead of tension, coffee tasting richer alone on the porch, the breeze carrying hints of rain and possibility. I dated casually, no rush, enjoying conversations without shadows. Reflecting now, I see how trust shattered but rebuilt stronger in myself. Betrayal taught vigilance, but also compassion for her flaws, my blindness. Life moves on quietly, chapters closing to open new ones. Would you forgive this kind of betrayal? Summarizing the entire narrative arc, this story traces Alex's journey from blissful ignorance through suspicion, investigation, confrontation, and fallout to empowered resolution, embodying the psychological trajectory of betrayal trauma. Denial giving way to action, grief to growth. Key insights on trust reveal its fragility. Eroded by Sarah's secrecy and emotional detachment, motivated perhaps by mid-marriage stagnation, while Alex's coping evolves from passive rationalization to assertive boundaries, highlighting personal empowerment. Lessons abound. Ignoring subtle cues like body language and routine shifts prolongs pain, but facing reality fosters resilience, as seen in his new independence and reflections. Emotionally, the arc provides catharsis, contrasting expectations of eternal fidelity with the reality of human fallibility, ultimately offering hope that closure comes not from forgiveness, but self-reclamation, a universal truth for navigating relational devastation.